It was good. I'm gonna get started while people are jumping on, and I know we are live on Facebook because I have kind of a lot to share today. I've been deep diving. Let me start my thing really quickly. Oh, there's Milton. I've been deep diving on Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and so I wanna share that with you guys today. But first, happy October. Cannot believe it is October. We are entering my favorite time of the year, which I'm really excited about. I love fall. Would love to hear. Oh, there's Jill McNamee. She said, I'm going to try to get on from my iPhone. um, would love to hear something you guys are grateful for this month. I felt like September just totally flew by. And this year, I can't believe there's only 3 months left in the year. Totally crazy, but would love to hear something in the chat that you are grateful for or in the comments if you're on Facebook. Here comes Sarah Weber coming in. Working on, oh, no problem. Averaging one deal under contract for the last several weeks. Wow, that is awesome. Great job. Love that, Milton. That is so awesome. People are like either really picking it up or they're really slowing down right now. So I'm super glad you're really picking it up. Jill said health and family. Yes, totally agree. Amy. Oh, I love Amy's on. Friends that turned into family. Love that. So good. I listened to a podcast this morning where Ed Milet was talking about that on my walk, actually, about how friends can turn into family. Jake, grateful for your support system. Jake, I thought you would say grateful for your 12 grand dogs. Jake's dog just had 12 puppies unexpectedly. He thought she was gonna have 3 and she popped out 12. So, and I just want you to know that one of them's name is Dana. And she is probably the cutest one, and she's the biggest one. She weighs the most. She eats 24/7. I was like, yep, sounds about right. She likes food. So anyway, really funny. Jake, love all that. Okay, so I'm gonna get started. So Dr. Benjamin Hardy, I have been obsessed with Dr. Ben Hardy. This is the book that we're going to talk about today called Be Your Future Self Now. Sorry, my light's kind of bad out here. The sun's coming in. Be Your Future Self Now. You may know Dr. Ben Hardy because he also wrote 10X is Easier Than 2X. And he originally started co-writing with Dan Sullivan, the founder of Strategic Coach. And Ben is a genius, in my opinion. He is so smart. And I did want to share, Linda and I had him on our podcast about a month ago. And the title, if you missed it, is 10X is Easier Than 2X, which, by the way, we are putting our videos of our podcast on YouTube now. So if you'd rather watch than listen, you can. And I think we've had like really good feedback on that. But we interviewed Dr. Ben Hardy because Linda is mentioned in 10X is Easier Than 2X. They actually Ben interviewed her and told her story in the book. And about 3 weeks later, Ed Milet had him on his podcast and it went viral. So I just wanted to share, number one, we had him first before Ed Milet. And number two, somehow his episode with Ed went viral, and ours has not yet. However, it probably will. But I wanted to talk to you guys about being your future self. And I want to start by kind of setting the stage through the story that he opens with in the book. Type in the chat, have any of you heard of Mr. Beast? He is a famous YouTuber. I know that Josh Dawson has. Amy, yes. Oh, Milton read his book. Yes. Okay. So I wanna read to you just a little bit about I want to read to you a little bit about Mr. Beast. So at 17 years old in 2015, his real name is Jimmy Donaldson, for those of you that don't know. Jimmy was 17 years old in October 4th, 2015. He'd been filming some YouTube videos just kind of on and off. Then he decided to film 4 videos talking about his future self. At 17 years old, you guys. In the first one, he spoke to his future self 6 months into the future. In the second video, he spoke to himself 12 months into the future. In the third video, 5 years into the future. And in the fourth, he spoke to himself 10 years into the future. And so he said each video lasted around 2 minutes, nothing crazy. But in those pivotal moments, Jimmy was completely raw and honest about what he wanted with his life, what he expected of his future self. Rather than publishing these videos immediately as he normally would, he scheduled each clip to publish at the exact time in the future. So the 6-month one at 6 months, the 12-month at 12, 5 years, and 10 years from the respective date of October 4th, 2015. 6 months later, on October 4th, 2016, the first video went live on his YouTube channel. The video began with him showing his computer screen, highlighting his current stats so you could see where he was on the day that he filmed. He said, at the time I'm filming this video, I have 8,000 subscribers and 1.8 million views. So whenever you see this, compare these numbers to whatever I have when you watch this. And then he has a short conversation with his future self. What would I want to say to me in 6 months? Hopefully I'm still uploading daily. Hopefully you have at least 15,000 subscribers. Remember, he had 8 at the time, so he wanted just 7,000 more. It would be embarrassing if I don't, and then you guys would be like, yeah, you need to get your act together. He said, hopefully I'm still enjoying YouTube. Hopefully future me still enjoys doing what I'm doing. It would be crazy if I had some ridiculous amount of subscribers, like 20,000 or something in 6 months. Not only did he achieve his 6-month goal, but by his 12-month goal that was released on October 4th, 2016, he had actually over 200,000 subscribers. He consistently made videos viewed by millions. His videos grew bolder and more innovative. He fully embraced the brand of his alter ego, Mr. Beast. And he said the creation of his future videos became a turning point in his life. The candid conversations marked a crucial inflection point when Jimmy got courageous towards his dreams. Within a few years, he made hundreds of millions of dollars and currently still is the fastest rising internet sensation ever. And it is crazy if you read about him now. I think he goes on to tell in the book several of his stories, but one of his biggest videos that he did, and he said he had a future self kind of moment with this. He tested how many balloons were needed to lift him off the ground. He drove more than 100 hours to purchase a Snickers bar from every Walmart in his state. He bought a car with only pennies. He gave 3 million pennies to the person who became his 3 millionth subscriber, which, by the way, I had to Google that, and it's $30,000. But here's the crazy part. By October 4th, I know Heather did not have to Google that, but I did have to Google that. By October 4th, 2020, when his third Future Me video aired, he had become the fastest rising YouTuber on the internet, and he had more than 40 million subscribers at an annual revenue in excess of $100 million a year. And that was just 5 years later, you guys. So it's crazy because the reason, sorry, these birds are going nuts. The only reason that that Ben Hardy opened his entire book with the story of Mr. Beast is because at 17 years old, he was living his future self. Like, he was talking to his future self. So I have a couple points I want to share with you, and then I want to tell you another story from the book that I love. It says, research now shows that a person's past does not drive or dictate their actions or behaviors. Rather, we are pulled forward by our future. And all human action is goal driven, even if the goal, or the behavior isn't consciously considered by the individual. So meaning sometimes this stuff is totally unconscious. And so he said, you should ask yourself 3 questions. What's the reason for the goal or for the activity? What benefit am I getting from this? And then where's this activity taking me? The more conscious and clear you are about choosing your purpose and goals, the how begins to take care of itself. So that's like you letting the future pull you instead of focusing on, okay, I made $100,000 last year. Now this year I want to make 200,000, and next year, like, instead of going off the past, you're actually saying, hey, in 5 years from now, I want to do X, and you let that pull you towards there. This whole thinking, by the way, is like transformational in my opinion. I am loving this right now. He says you're either let me go back. Your behavior follows your purpose and goals. Without conscious purpose, the how becomes conflicted and chaotic. And I don't know if you guys feel like this, but sometimes I think we can, even I do this a lot, we can drift back in to the conflicted or chaotic state because we're focused like on what we just happened or what we're trying to do in the now, instead of actually letting our future pull us towards that. You're either working towards a future you are trying to avoid or a future you're trying to create. We've talked about this before. People are either motivated one of 2 ways. They're motivated by the gain of something or the lack of something. So you might be motivated by saying, I've been broke once and I'll never be broke again, so that's what motivates me. Or you might be motivated by saying, I really want to achieve something, and it's a gain type motivation. Like, I know I'm going to get there because I'm motivated by the gain or by the future. Neither one is right or wrong, by the way, but you should know which one you are motivated by. And I actually wrote my notes in the book when I read that. And I wrote in the book, which one am I? Because I kind of tend to go back and forth. I don't know if that's normal or not. But I think it just kind of depends on what it is. He said, this one is huge. We are generally dealing with so many immediate battles that it's hard for us to lift our gaze above the moment. That really resonated with me. And that's something I'm really working on with my coach right now, is like getting out of these little immediate battles every single day that are they seem like they're big things, but they could be littler things, but to actually be able to lift our gaze from the moment. Oh, thanks. Heather posted the link to our interview with Ben on the podcast. Thank you. If you guys want to watch that. Okay. So he also says, your view of your future self is the compass that draws you forward. The quality of connection that you have with your own future self determines the quality of your life and your behavior now. So if you aren't really connected with your future self, it's going to determine the life that you live today. He said the difference maker is think and act from your goal rather than toward your goal. So it kind of takes a minute to get this. And I highly encourage you to read the book, because he does a much better job explaining it than I do, since he wrote the book. But it's almost like you're thinking from that goal and you're letting it pull you towards it. When you're disconnected with your future self, you get caught up in the urgent goals that often result in low quality behavior in the present. For the majority, this is the norm. And I don't know if you guys feel like that or not, but I definitely have felt like that for sure. This is really, really interesting to me. Dr. Stephen Covey, many of you probably heard of him or read his books. He did research, and what he found is anyone that's done anything substantial did so by seeing it in their mind first, then working towards the image. And really, I thought, gosh, like, that's mindset. I mean, that is having a great mindset. You see it first, and then you work towards it. That's why I like press you guys so much to make your vision boards and, have things in front of you and all those things, because when you see it first, it pulls you towards it. As they took steps forward, their vision clarified, expanded, and evolved. Not only do you see what you're looking, but you act toward what you most want and have decided will be yours. And it's kind of like that whole RAS thing, the reticular activator system. Like, once you decide that you're going to buy a red car, then you see that red car everywhere, or whatever it is that you're focusing on. Like, you start to see that stuff everywhere. It's the same thing with your future self. When you really put that out there, it becomes a part of your RAS. And then a lot of that he talks about in the book is also just your faith. I mean, you've already received it and you act accordingly. And so for those of you who have any sort of faith, no matter what it is, that's kind of what that is. Like, you've already received it. So then you just need to act accordingly. I love what he talks about commitment. He said, commitment is a statement of what is. You know that you're committed to, but you know what you're committed to by your results, not by what you say your commitments are. We are all committed. We are all producing results. The result is proof of a commitment. And so I think that's why sometimes, like, even if I have the language of try, Adam is quick to say, are you trying, or are you going to do it? Like, are you intending to do it? And that's so true, because that's what a commitment is. When you're 100% committed and you have faith, you will find the way. And I do believe that. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said, when you make a decision, the universe conspires to make it happen. And Ethan, that's what I was just getting ready to say. That's deep. That is so true. It is deep, very deep. However, if you talk to anybody who has done anything big, they will, every one of them, I think, would say, like, I visualized it first. I saw it first, and then I made it happen. And, or you make the decision that you're going to make it happen, and the universe conspires to do that. He gave a great example of this, and I'm not going to read the whole story, but I'm sure you've heard of Viktor Frankl, and he was a Holocaust survivor. And his story is insane. He was one of only like 4 people who actually survived. And in the book, he kind of tells Viktor's story, but he was separated from his wife and his children. And his entire will to live was to see and to find his wife and his children. And he says, he who has a why to live can bear almost anything. And I mean, he did, out of the thousands of people that died, like he was the one trying to talk to people in the, what are they called? Like the things that they run, I can think of the word, about like having a future hope. And he said, lose the purpose for your future and you will die in the present. And that's also deep, Ethan. However, it is very true. And when you think about that, like people who have gone through things like that, the reason that they bared it is because their purpose to their future self was so strong that it actually pulled them through. And like his story is the exact story of being your future self, because he did. I mean, he survived because he saw the future. Unfortunately, his wife and kids were killed. So what he was living for didn't come to fruition, but the hope of it actually kept him alive. And he made the massive impact that he did. I like this quote by Paul Arden in the book. Your vision of where or who you want to be is the greatest asset that you have. Without having a goal, it's difficult to score. And I think that is just really, really, really good. He talks about high hope people versus low hope people. And this one really hit me too. So I just wanted to share you like one paragraph from the book. He does a whole chapter on this, but he said, high hope people find multiple pathways to reach their goals and willingness to try new approaches. Low hope people stick with one approach and they do not try other avenues when they're stuck. Instead of using problem-focused thought, the low hope people often use counterproductive avoidance and disengagement in their thinking. Reinforced in the short term by their avoidance thoughts, low hope people continue their passivity. High hope people learn from their experiences and use information about not reaching their goals as diagnostic feedback to search for other feasible approaches. Because just because you are a high hope person doesn't mean that you're going to hit every single goal that you have. And it doesn't mean that every single thing that you wish is going to come true. And it also doesn't mean that you aren't going to make a mistake or have a setback or whatever that looks like. But what it does mean is that you're going to always use that to learn and have it as an experience. I listened to Ed Milet's podcast this morning. It was actually released, I don't know, maybe a few days ago or a few weeks ago. It was on grief. And I listened to it on my walk early this morning. And he actually talked about using grief or when someone dies as a way to self-reflect on you. And it was really good, but he was talking about that. But he says in the book, Dr. Ben Hardy says, high hopers commit 100% to a specific result. While their goal is unwavering, they remain highly flexible in the process or path to achieve their pursuit. So if they get off track, they're going to find a different way to do it. And it reminds me of what Gary Keller has always taught us. And I've heard him say this so many times when I've heard him speak. And he says that like the goal is not movable. The way to get there is movable. And so you might have to readjust your path, but your goal should be unwavering. Exactly what he says in the book. So I want to read you this story that is crazy. It's just like 2 pages, so it's not very long, but Ben shares his personal story in the book. And it's so good. He said, when I was 16 years old, my mom, my 2 brothers, and I took a trip to visit a close friend in Sun Valley, Idaho. Halfway through the 5-hour evening drive, my mom got really tired. As a new driver, I eagerly offered to take the wheel. My mom laid in the back seat and quickly fell asleep. Within minutes, I encountered a construction site with flashing lights signaling me into the left lane. In the dark rain, barriers blocked construction on the right side of the road, and once the barriers ended, I returned to the right lane. Suddenly, the tires dropped a foot into dirt and rubble. At 60 miles per hour, I instinctively yanked the steering wheel to get back into the left lane. However, the car spun into the freeway median and it flipped multiple times. My head crashed against the window and I was knocked unconscious. When I woke, the car had landed on the opposite side of the freeway. I heard my brother Jacob crying in the back seat. He was yelling for me and saying, "Mom's not in the car, Mom's not in the car." When the car flipped, my mom had been thrown and ragdolled 50 feet across the pavement. No child should see their parent in such a brutal state. I truly had no words. Mercifully, paramedics arrived and we were taken by ambulance to the nearest hospital while my mom was flighted to an intensive unit at a different hospital. We had no clue if she was dead or alive. While we waited for news in the hospital that night, a police officer came into my room. He said, "Which one of you is Ben?" As I rose, I noticed a pile of hair on the pillow where I had laid. Noticing my surprise, the police officer looked at me and said, "Your hair's falling out because you're in shock. That's totally normal. Don't panic." He took me aside and he said, look, this experience could ruin the entire rest of your life. I don't know what's going to happen with your mom, but right now you need to make a choice about how you're going to handle this. He then told me that the person that was supposed to work the night shift and check the construction zone had been a no-show and no one called it in. More than 150 yards of tumbled construction barriers should have been put back in place, and they were never put back in place because of the no-show. This wasn't your fault. You're not to blame. He helped me take ownership of the situation for myself and my younger brothers who needed me. According to renowned trauma expert Dr. Peter Levine, trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of an empathetic witness. The police officer was my empathetic witness. He helped me process the shock and pain. He helped me be proactive in how I framed the experience. And then he says he helped him really be towards his future self, which, by the way, I do think his mom lived, for those of you that are wondering. But then he says this: everyone has a plan until life punches them in the face, which is a famous Mike Tyson quote that I'm sure you might have heard before. But he goes on to talk about that. And he really says how you frame your past, your goals become reactive to and based on your past. So if you're working towards your future self, you have to be really mindful of framing things that have happened to you in the past, and then also how you can move towards your future self by being pulled to that instead of letting something happen to you from the past. He talks about how we handle like reframing and pain, and he says you can reframe and shape your past narrative over and over. As you become more mature, you'll look on even your hardest moments with awe and joy. You'll love those moments for what they continue to teach you and for the meaning that they've given your life. And so he talks a lot about The Gap in the Gain, which is another book, but he says this: the gain happens when you transform every experience, good or bad, into personal growth. And when you do that, you actually are moving towards your future self. So I could do like every month on this book because there's so much to it. And I know that was kind of a lot, but I just want you guys to think today when it comes to your mindset. And I'm thinking these same things right now. How do you need to change or show up to have the mindset of being your future self? And truly, it may be like you need to, revisit your goals, or you might need to sit down. Like, one of the things I want to do, is cheesy as it sounds to copy Mr. Beast, I'm not going to put mine on a live YouTube video. But what I do want to do is write down and say 12 months from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Oh, and we also, let me go back to that really fast. Linda and I just did another episode. It's right here where I look like a freak in this picture, but how to have the best decade ever. Linda just went to one of her strategic coaching sessions with Dan Sullivan, and the entire day was about how to have your best decade ever. We talk about like exactly, she walks through how her coach set them up to have the best decade ever. But the first thing that she did is he had them do is write down the date, and then the date 10 years from now, and how old they were going to be at that, like on that date 10 years from now. And then he walked them through like what were the big things that they wanted to accomplish in their life, in their health, like in all these different categories. And really that goes along with this book of being your future self now, and then also being like your best self over the next decade. And I was thinking this morning when I was listening to the Ed Mylett podcast about grief, he said it goes by in a flash. I think he said, I feel like I just got my driver's license, and then I feel like I just graduated from college, and now I'm 50 years old and my kids are out of the house. And he's like, where the heck did it go? And so he said, no matter like what your age is, it goes like, you probably feel like the last 10 years have gone by like that in a flash. And so when you're living towards your future self, you're more in control of that, as opposed to looking back and saying, holy cow, what in the heck did I do the last 10 years, and where did they go? And, what did I waste, or what did I not do? So hopefully this gave you guys something to think about with your mindset. I would highly recommend the book. It's great. I audio listened to it the first time, and that was probably a mistake because I'm rereading the actual book, and I'm getting so much more out of it because I'm actually like taking notes and highlighting and doing things in it and doing what it tells you to do. So hopefully this was helpful. I know this was a little deeper. Ethan was right. However, it is really good to think about, and especially you guys going into the end of the year. I mean, it is a great time to be thinking about what you want next year to look like, and then the next year and the next year and the next year. So thanks for being on, whether you're on Zoom or Facebook. And if you have any questions, let me know. But go listen to the episode. He definitely describes things a little bit better and is really great. My pleasure. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Dana. Later.
Thanks, Josh. See ya. Bye.
The that